Good morning, guys. So, I'm going to talk about. Actually, I don't know what is today's topic. I'm waiting for people to come on. Hey, Bluebird. Hey, guys. Wow, two people. Both the pets, Jack and Jack. So, what should I talk about today? So, I posted a vote on Twitter just 3 hours ago. So, it's either going to be about Emacs or Emacs Lisp, which is a technical topic where I'm going to teach some subject. It can be any specific thing about Emacs or Emacs Lisp, or I'm gonna talk about something about YouTube. Many interesting things, channels on YouTube. I just talk randomly, like a talk show, or I can talk about some other things like programming languages or just random stuff like non-technical. Well, okay, programming languages that's still technical, but random-ish. So, so what do you guys like to hear? Let me know. So I was going to. So again, my Emacs blog, and let's get the command log going. Okay, I'm gonna show a random stuff. Okay, I want to know more about Elise loop. Okay, there's Thai. I can cover both actually. Let me start by Emacs. By the way, Bird Pet, do you use Emacs at all? So anyway, let me start by just going to this mod .emacs lpod command log mod and command log mod magnify, and I'm going to start this mod. But you see, this mod is probably, well, let me start it. Run, run, run. So what this mod does is that it shows all my commands, including typing. For example, you see, you can see, you know, whatever even the text I insert will show up here. But actually, I'm thinking of modifying the mod so that it does not show the text. Okay, let's do that. Okay, let's delete that command command mod. So every few minutes, every 5 minutes, I'm gonna look at the um, chat. So keep the chat comments coming. So let me type it. Well, let's not. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, you see, this mod is on Melpa, but however, the file you are seeing is modified a little bit. So, and this mod is problematic in that, you see, these two sections I added myself. If you download from Melpa, you won't see these two sections. The instruction to start the mod has bugs. So the way you actually want to start it is to call command log mod, and if you want it global, you have to call global command log mod. Then you have to call this command crm open command log buffer in order to show this buffer or the commands you are calling. So, and it must be in this specific order. You cannot simply just call global command mod log mod, because that doesn't work. It's kind of a bug. You have to call command log mod first to turn it on. So this mod is problematic. So if you want, you can actually copy these, download the file from Melpa, copy it, put in the file, make a push request, so it's better. Okay, the other thing is that in this mod, when you download it, actually it has a filter like over here. So basically this filter is used so that some command will not show. Commands such as backward char like this, or backward delete char oops, like this. Okay, I have different command, but anyway, so these commands are filtered out. It won't show on here. However, I want everything to show, so I commented it out. I commented them out, except the mouse drag region and mouse set point, which is basically mouse click. But now I want, let's say, self. I want this. I also want to filter out self insert command, because when you are typing something, uh, people already see what you are typing. It needs not to be shown there. So I'm gonna close that. So I'm gonna comment it. I'm gonna filter out the self insert command. So let's just run it. So I'm gonna call this. So it's done. So now if I type something, you see it does not show on the left side. So that's it for the command log mod. Let's close this, make a backup, close it. Okay, new frame in command log. Okay, so Emacs Lisp loop. Okay, let's talk about that. So in Emacs Lisp, basically the only general, the most basic loop is while loop. Emacs Lisp does not have for loop, for loop like in C or Java, JavaScript, Python. It only has while loop. So what you do is, let's see, wait, switch to, okay, so switch to my Emacs Lisp mod, type W, enter when, that's not what I want. So while, that's how you do a loop. For example, let's do this. Set one equals to, let's say, print messages. So I'm gonna print I from 1 to 9. Okay, and now I'm going to show my message mod. It's gonna be, the result is gonna be showing here. Okay, so I run the command. Oh, void variable I. Yeah, of course. So that's a problem with while. So what you have to do is to set I to 0. You can do that, or you can do let let I I 0. So you can do this. So let's run it. You see, now the result is here. Now this is the most basic, the most fundamental loop in Emacs, and that's it. That's the only one. There's as far as loop goes. Okay, so that's the only one, but there are several others. For example, there is, if you have a if you have a list, for example, let's just set let's delete that. Okay, let's just say X list, for example, run it. Then there's a command called do times. Okay, and that's the syntax. And you say one from the variable I is already local. That's just part of the syntax. Let's put this in let's put it this way. So do times I from let's say 10. Let's say let's say 10. Okay. Okay. In do times, it's a loop. You don't need a list. So let's forget about that. So it's just it's like a while loop. So I is from 1 to 10. Forget about the result for now. Um, you can always look up describe function do times to see the full syntax. So so the body is gonna be just that. Let's say that. Okay, let's try it. Move it down. Run it. You see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 9. Let's try to run to 5. You see, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it start at 0. Um, and the last the last expression in the body is returned. For example, we can do, for example, set x okay, xx equals 2. So we can do that. Run it and show x. Run it. Oh, not x, but xx, yeah, because we have xx here. So show xxx. Oh, nil. Okay, so the result of do times is just nil. It just does it does a loop, and it doesn't return anything. It's just loop by side effect. Yeah, while loop is like for in well, not like for in JavaScript, because JavaScript is very complicated. It's fucked up. JavaScript for in is not what you think it's doing. Should I talk about it? Okay, let me repeat. We got 5 people watching. I'm going to talk about. Let me know what you want to talk about. Emacs or Emacs, this technical subject where I just, you ask a question, I focus on, or I focus on particular topic. I just teach it. Or I can talk about like start talk show, which is more random. About society, about future, about technology, about programming in general, about philosophy. Um, and I was planning to show YouTube. There's so many interesting things going on YouTube. There are literally like billions. Yeah, I think something like that. Billions of videos on YouTube. Like every hour, every minute, there are hundreds of new videos. And this has been so since 5 or 10 years ago. Okay, general stuff. Okay, it seems like that, yeah, so keep the comment going. So doesn't matter what subject I'm talking about, keep the comment going, because when your comment direct me to, the direction I'm going to talk about. You can ask a question or something. So, okay, here we have Emacs loop. We covered Emacs loop. Let me talk about JavaScript. JavaScript, just a little bit, okay? Not technical. JavaScript loop. JavaScript is a very complicated language, and it's pretty fucked up. It's because originally, JavaScript started in 1995, and originally it's not much of a language. It's just for people who don't have programming experience. Like designers. It's designed for them to, maybe trick something on a web page. That's the origin of JavaScript, and it's literally created and implemented, designed in like 10 days. This is JavaScript is created by Brendan. I think he's Brendan or Brendan Ike. So he invented JavaScript in around 1995, and it's the whole thing is done in 10 days. And the Brendan Eck, he is a Lisp fan. So he's a Scheme Lisp to be exact. He's a Scheme Lisp fan. So he's a language fan, like me. Very interested in languages, very interested in elegance of languages, design of languages. So he got hired to by Netscape, and he is to uh, he what the plan was he was going to implement Scheme in Netscape browser, but but it's not up to him because this society, because companies they have their own goals. So back then 1995, Sun Microsystems created Java. Java, the most bloated language. It's supposed to be like, have you must have heard the slogan, uh, write once, run everywhere, run anywhere. That was a slogan. If you were not there, you can not imagine how crazy it was. It was in every magazine, including non-programming magazine like Scientific America, in pop magazines, everywhere. You see it every day. Every website, they run ads. Write Java, write once, run everywhere. And the thought, among programmers, or at least according to the marketing, and very popular among programmers as well, is that the Java is going to be the last language. No more. The Java is the final one, right? Once, right? Everywhere. So anyway, Java came along, and Sun Microsystem puts millions dollars in marketing. And then, but in browser at the time they need some kind of a scripting language. Scripting is kind of hot at the time. Just it kind of just began scripting. And Perl was also very popular. So Java and Perl are extremely popular back then. Okay, back then the most popular languages, not much. Not like today. You have so many different languages, Python, Ruby, Perl, Haskell or Camel, many different functional languages, and, so many. But back then, there's only few actually used widely in the industry. So there's C, C++, Perl, Java, and that's about it. Let's see, did I miss anything? So keep the comments coming. So I know where I'm going. I'm going too fast or too slow, or should I change subject? So anyway, so back then there's only just these few languages, and then so Java is very popular because some microsystems, and Linux was just on the scene. Linux is kind of not there yet, but anyway, so Java is widely marketed. Everyone knows. So when JavaScript came into the scene, the Netscape company want the syntax to be Java. So that is why today when you the JavaScript syntax is C-like. It's not like Scheme Lisp. It's C-like. However, the semantics, the how JavaScript works, it's more like Scheme. Okay, and it supports functional programming. In fact, JavaScript is one of the language that propelled functional programming, that introduced, popularized functional programming to the industrial programmers. Not Haskell, okay? It's not Haskell. It's JavaScript, and I would say PHP is also very fundamental in introducing functional programming. Now, however, that opinion is controversial. Okay, you probably don't agree. That's just my opinion because PHP is it's also a very lousy and screwed up language. It's just started by a teenager who original name of PHP is Pretty Home Page, something like that. Okay, it's like my Pretty Home Page, and PHP in the beginning is just Perl. It's just a copy, just code written in Perl, that tries to do something in HTML. That's it. So it's a Perl script running in browsers along with Apache, the to compile it. So PHP in the beginning is just Perl. Um, the essential idea that makes made PHP widely popular is because templates. In Perl or Python or Ruby, when you want to run a page, HTML page, basically whenever you want to print something, you have to say print, something. But however, PHP is the reverse. So basically, everything you type is gonna be printed out. So everything you type in PHP is just like as if you have a print statement in front. It's just gonna print it out. It's just dump it. So the whole thing is like a template. But when you want code to actually run, then you have to put special brackets, and that's code. So uh, let's see. Okay, so let's start PHP. Let me show you some syntax. So this is PHP, for example. Yeah, you see this. Let me magnify. You see this bracket, left angle bracket question mark PHP, and end by question mark PHP. So if you want code, you have to put inside this bracket. But otherwise, any text is just gonna be printed out. It's just dumped out. So this is kind of the reverse of normal programming languages. You print something, you have to say print. But here everything is printed. You have to, for code to run, you have to put them in special delimiters. So this way, so what's good about this way? This way is very useful for HTML because in HTML, like over here, the vast majority of your text is actually needs to be printed out. So that's how so PHP is very simple, extremely simple. It just have the basic idea of functions. That's it in the beginning, just functions. Everything is just a function. It doesn't have object-oriented system because it's just a teenager who wants to create a pretty home page. So everything is just function. So there's no any fancy programming language concepts. For example, when you talk to Python heads or Haskell heads or Lisp heads, they want to talk about tail recursion, monads, currying, transparency of what's the code, variable transparency or macros. Like those hacker types, elite programmers. They want to like keep telling you those important things, and if you don't use them, they say you are stupid. You need to do you need to code it in idioms, all their fancy references and stuff. So PHP is not like that because he's just this teenage guy. He wants to create a pretty homepage and you know writing script on top of Perl, and so everything is just a function. Function meaning just simple function. You give this argument, it returns something. So so anyway, so because of this, it's extremely simple, and because it's suitable for HTML, it becomes huge. I mean, it becomes basically the number one, the most popular language in the world in much of 2000s, like most of 2000, even still today. So, for example, Wikipedia is written in PHP, and so PHP is like drastically different from the other languages, maybe academic or an industrial, because the academic languages like Haskell or Scheme, they have their own, like a code, a philosophy. They want to tell you what should be done, according to computer science and so on. The industrial programmers like the C fuckheads and C++ fuckheads and Java, they have different ideas. They have a code. Their idea is to tell you like you should do it this way because it's the most efficient. They talk about compilers, references, arithmetics, and memory, stacks and overflow, and they want to talk about that. So PHP is just entirely, it's not from that environment. So it's just simple guy created a thing, practical thing. So that becomes extremely popular. So and because PHP is mostly just simple functions, that's why I say, that's my opinion. I say, in fact, PHP is the programming language that actually helped propel the idea of functional programming. Now, if you are a functional programming fan, maybe Haskell or Lisp or Camel, you probably don't agree because that's not, everyone, every programmer, professional programmer likes to diss JavaScript and PHP. But anyway, PHP. So there's PHP and JavaScript. So yeah, JavaScript in the beginning it's designed just for common people like web designers, CSS writers. CSS wasn't there yet. CSS was invented sometimes in 1998 or something, and it became kind of somewhat widely used. It's slow. It became somewhat widely used in 2000 by 2002, I would say, somewhat widely used. Okay, so but anyway, um, but JavaScript today, it there's a tremendous change and tremendous shift. You guys already know there's front end. Front end became a thing by itself. It's extremely complex, and JavaScript today since 2005, ES ECMAScript 2015, they introduced like tens of new features, new semantics for the language. So basically, it's a completely different language than JavaScript before that. Okay, in since 2015. So the ECMAScript 15, the since 2015 JavaScript has all the features in Perl, Python, or Python, Ruby, whatever, Ruby people, Python people, they might say, advanced things like, decorators, for example, in Python. You can do that. I mean, well, you can do that in JavaScript. Actually, I don't think JavaScript has decorators, but I think it's coming or macro or something like that. Nowadays, like today, every year there's a new version of JavaScript. So anyway, however, JavaScript since 2015 is very new. I mean, it's a new language kind of. However, it's 100% compatible with the JavaScript before. That's by their design. That's their decision. They want to make it 100% compatible. So the advantage is that, of course, all the old website will still run. Well, mostly, all the website, millions of websites, they will still run. However, all the bad designs and the warts, the history of JavaScript is still there. So today, JavaScript, it's pretty very complex. Very complex. Perhaps comparable to C++. So let me talk about quickly about the okay. For example, let me give you an example of for loop in JavaScript. Um, uh, let's magnify this. Let's see JavaScript object inheritance properties functions loop. Okay, so the most basic for loop is for well, actually I'm using ES 2015 now, so it's late. But there's a while loop, there's do while loop, there's continue loop. The Okay, so there are these loops, but the for in is actually something entirely different. Let me show you. So yeah, let me show you quickly. Again, if you have comments, just say it, because your comment or questions direct which way I'm going, what I'm going to talk about. Let's see. So yeah, new people keep the comment coming. So JavaScript is the baby language, interactive. Okay, I'll talk about that a little bit. Wasn't Java the one that popularized OOP? Yeah. Well, I was, yes, Java is one of the programming language that popularized OOP to the top. That's like the hate of OOP craze. I would say uh, around 2000 to 2005. I would say, but however, I don't know C++, but I think C++ introduced OOP to the general population. But I don't know C++, and I'm not in C++ community, so I don't really know. But anyway, C++ introduced the way we understand OOP to the industry. So yeah, let me just go. Uh, I was going to talk about JavaScript, the for-in loop. It's not what you think. It's very fucked up. So quickly, okay, for-in loop. Where do I find it? For-in loop. That's actually for looping through objects, but it's not what you think. It's looping through object. However, it also checks out the inheritance. So, so you have an object. An object in JavaScript is simply a collection of key value pairs. So, for example, like Perl's hash table, like Ruby's hash table, like Python's dictionary. So, in JavaScript, when you see the word object, it's not what you think. It's okay. The object in JavaScript is entirely different from object in object-oriented programming of Java or Python or Ruby. Okay, so Java, Ruby, Python, C++, they have one concept of object in object-oriented programming, but in JavaScript, it's entirely different. So whatever you know about OOP in Java or Python or Ruby or C++ is entirely wrong in JavaScript. Okay, entirely. I mean, if you want to understand JavaScript, first of all, forget about all you know about OOP in those languages. And those languages, their OOP is kind of similar, so they have the same model. Java or Python or Ruby or C++ or even PHP. PHP added OOP sometimes in the 2000s. But JavaScript is entirely different. So an object, whenever you see the word object in anywhere, any tutorial or reference, the object means think of this way. It's just a collection of list and value pairs, like hash table or dictionary. Okay. However, there's one more thing added to it. Every hash table, well, every collection of key value pairs, they may have a parent, which is another object. So you have a object. That object usually have a parent, which is another object, key value pairs. And each object can also have a children. Can also have children. Is it one children or more than one children? I forgot. But anyway, every object, key value pairs, can have a parent or can have children. Now, it's not necessarily they have a parent. They can have no parent, but that's rare. You can create an object without parent. But however, almost all building object has a parent. So once you so what does a parent mean? It means whenever you want to look up a key, You want to see if a key exists in a JavaScript object. JavaScript will check, if it exists. If it does not exist, it will look up, it will check the keys in that object's parent. And if it's not there, it will keep checking, keep going up to the parents until there's no parent. Then it returns, okay, there's no such key, and it returns undefined. So that's the nutshell of JavaScript objects and JavaScript object inheritance. Okay, so it's not like the Java, object class, or there's no concept of class. But it's complicated because after 2015 they introduced the keyword class, which kind of emulate the OOP model in Java. So it's entire thing is very complicated, very complicated. If you ask a average JavaScript programmer, they don't know what the fuck they are doing. That's true, actually. I would say more than 50. Let's put it this way precisely. I would say more than 50% of programmers who are programming JavaScript as their main programming language in a company, as the way they make money, professional JavaScript programmers, more than 50%, they they do not know um, much of JavaScript. How do you quantify it? They do not know what percentage of Java. Well, let's just say they don't know. They don't know the details. So what they do is that they just copy what other people do, like simple syntax. So when they write for something in something, they think it's a loop, but they don't know it's actually checking the parents. So usually, often you'll have lots of bugs. And that's just one of the problems of JavaScript. JavaScript has lots of problems, you know, because let me show the object JS functions object property. Okay, object property. Well, let's forget about that for in example. I mean, it's going to into detail. So what else? Yeah, maybe that's it for JavaScript. Interactive XXX. So keep the comments, keep comments. So I know what. Why was XML ever popular? Oh, that's a big story. I like to talk about that. Okay, so let me cover the interactive in Emac Lisp. Let me show you, Jack. So interactive, actually, so okay, so go Emac Lisp. You know, the best thing actually is just to read this article, because interactive is not something that's simple, and it's not that useful for beginners. Okay, so if you are just beginning to program Emac Lisp for the first few months or even half a year, I would say don't worry about interactive. Don't But if you want to know the details, I mean, you can begin to understand it by reading this page. So this is just my website. You can just search for Xari eLisp Interactive. Okay, let's go here. So you go to practical Emac Lisp, and you'll see here interactive form. Just read it there, because it's not for well, you have to understand several other things that's more useful. than interactive. So let's get back to okay XML. So why is XML popular? So XML, in the beginning there's HTML. HTML began around 1990. Okay, it became along with web, it became very popular beginning around 1995. In 1995, there are not many websites. There are maybe 100. Okay, maybe 200. Let's say 200. Below 1,000 is for sure. Like the entire world, there's only few hundred websites, and you use HTML. But before HTML, there's something called SGML. It stands for uh, Semantic General Markup Language. Okay, so something like that. So we have HTML, um, we have SGML. SGML stand for look it up. So anyway, HTML is a markup language where you have hyperlinks, just like links you can click, and that was like a totally new idea. That's like a innovation. Like I remember reading on Time magazine. Remember, Time magazine is not a programmer's magazine, but I remember reading on it, and all the magazines, like every magazine or newspapers, they are telling people about, oh, there's a new thing called web, you know, uh, World Wide Web, WWW. There's like this new thing coming up. It's created by cyberpunks, cyberspace, and then there is the thing called hyperlink, meaning just link you can click. So all the magazines, they are telling people about this, how it is a phenomenon. Like back then, like, just like any new technology today, AI or whatever, you don't know if it's going to be popular. Like, you just hear it, oh, there's like, oh, these crazy guys are creating that thing. And you go on with your life. Like, you have no idea what it's going to become. So, so there's HTML, there's SGML. Um, HTML is kind of a simplified version of SGML. I never really understand the detail of SGML. It's very complex. Okay, it's just one thing you can be sure it's fairly complex. But basically, the syntax looks exactly the same as HTML. HTML is like a subset of SGML. Okay, now, back in 1995, each browser is very competitive. In the beginning, there's a Mosaic from NCSA, I think. NCSA, which stands for National Supercomputing Center, I think. NSCC. Okay, no, that's wrong. So anyway, look up Mosaic. Let's do that. Mosaic is the first browser, one of the first, not the. It's kind of slow. Disambiguation. Okay, Mosaic. It's one of the first browser. I remember using this browser in 1993, and it's created by the university NCSA here. NCSA is National Center for Supercomputing Applications. That's a fancy name, but basically, I think it's a branch or something of University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and that is also the headquarter of Wolfram Research. So there's a affiliation between the university and Wolfram Research. Wolfram Research, that's the guy who makes Mathematica. They often hire people from University of Illinois. And actually, I lived there. I worked for them for half a year in 1995. So I lived in Illinois, Urbana-Champaign there. Every day you wake up, you smell cow dung. Well, that's a kind of a small country, what they call university town. Um, anyway, so okay, in the beginning there's a Mosaic, then Netscape took over. Mosaic is the NC, the National Center for Supercomputing Application. Is That's kind of an academic um, organization. It's not commercial. It's kind of academic. So Netscape is the one who wants to commercialize it. So Netscape, they created Netscape, as I think part of the code is based on Mosaic. But then Netscape, then they okay. So Netscape introduced a lot tags into the HTML, and for example, one of the most famous is Blink, like this. So if you have this code in HTML, that text will just flash. And to the programmers, that's the worst feature, the most lousy, and we don't like it. And anyway, back then, the way HTML tags are created is just by the company, just by okay. So there's a Netscape. Then Microsoft introduced IE browser, uh, to compete with Netscape. And each browser basically there are a few other browsers, but they are not popular. These two are the most popular. And each browser they create their own tags, like they invent a new tag. Like for example, one of the popular ones is let me show you. Um, this thing. You see, if you read some old page, you will still see this. So how does this work? It basically Microsoft introduced this, invented this. Microsoft IE introduced this. So they created this tag called marquee tag. So back then, every browser they just invent their own tag. They just invent it so that you as a developer, you might think this is a great feature. So that means you use only their browser, and you tell your people, this website is best viewed in Netscape browser, or this website is best viewed in IE browser. You tell people to use that browser. So every browser, they just invent their tags. Um, so so at the time there's already a standard, kind of. There's no standard. There's HTML. So there's a HTML2 standard coming up because people start to think, oh, then we actually need a standard so that to prevent each browser just create their own tags in to compete. But still, remember back, this is like a wild west. There's no actual rules or governing body, or law that says this should be this way. Everyone just do whatever, see what happens. You can copy other people's website. You can do, it's like today there's a copy of pirated movies. That's all came from like this. So nobody knows. So anyway, we have like many years of these. After 10 years, like around 2002, Netscape. So there's a browser war, but around 2002, Netscape lost. So Netscape went from like 99% market share to like 10% or zero. So Microsoft won, and Microsoft, but by the way, from my memory, the Internet Explorer is in every way better than Netscape. Technically, okay, it uses less memory. It's faster. It's more robust. It doesn't crash. It also conforms to HTML standard more, and it conforms to the CSS just created CSS. You know, so in every aspect, Netscape is technically worse. So a lot of people you hear they hate Microsoft. They hate IE. I don't agree. That's all bullshit. That's all lie. Okay, they lie because many of these people they like Unix. They like the Unix. Actually, I think Sun Microsystems, the guy who started Java and Unix, the Solaris, is the worst in my opinion. Okay, in those days, I think it's the worst ethically, morally, with respect to ethical morality. Sun Microsystems is worst, far worse. Also, the other thing about Sun Microsystem is that they love creating jargons. Like they just create jargons out of the blue from their marketing department. So you have Java one, you have Java Beans, you have Genie, you have Java Enterprise edition, you have Java, a bunch of just jargons from their marketing. So actually, I have an article. Uh, Let me show you then. Let's go to jargons of software industry. Okay. There is a particular article I wrote about the Java situation where the Sun Microsystem created huge amount of incomprehensible jargons purely for the purpose of marketing. I mean, Sun Microsystem is a scumbag, from all the companies. Like every commercial company, they do kind of unethical things to advance themselves. But if you rank them, as far as I know, Sun Microsystem is one of the worst. I don't know if they are worse than Microsoft. To me, Sun Microsystem is worst. That's is worse. That's just my personal opinion. But of course, today Google is far more worse than all of them combined. Google and Facebook. It's interesting how history, how things change, because in today's, generation, they don't know. Then I realized, how come you don't know? Because, well, they wasn't born, 10, 20 years ago. So when I start to talk about these things, to them it's, oh, he's talking about history. Like, who cares about history? When I was young, you mentioned some history about 1960s or 1970s, ITS operating system or whatever, list machines. I think that's interesting. Okay, I don't care. Like, how do I know? I mean, I don't know. What are they? And it's hard to know. So today, it's the same thing. I find it happens. So when I talk about these things, well, okay, he's talking about history, and there's you cannot. So there's like that's why generation gap happens, and also that's just a natural happening. Every generation things just move on. So you have the saying, history is important. That's in the sense that you do want to understand some histories, because that's how you can see, you know, why things are that way, and you can kind of guide your future. You have to, you know. Of course, history is not everything. But anyway, let's get back to the Sun Microsystem jargons. JAR. Okay, jargons of software industry. This one. So you go to my website, and on the left side you have this anti-hacker year 2K um, panel, index. So here is a collection of all the old rants I wrote. They are written around 2000, 2000 to, yeah, 2000s, mostly around early 2000s. So this article, Jargons of Software Industry, this is written in 2002. And you can see here the Java, how they create, they love jargons like marketing, fucking marketing jargons. So here's the jargons they create: Oak, JDK, JSDK, J2EE, J2SE Enterprise Edition, Java 1, Java 2. Then they changed, so you have Java 1 point something and Java 1.2 something. Then they changed the version, so it's like Java 2. So Java 1.2 is actually Java 2. Then there's another jargon called Java 1, like ONE. Um, I think that means a conference. Then they have JFC, they have Genie, they have Java Beans, Entity Beans, Oak, Swing. Um, you know, those. They just came out from some microsystem marketing department. But by the way, was during the time, 2002, when people are suing Microsoft because people accuse Microsoft of monopoly. And of course, Sun Microsystem is one of them. They jumped onto the bandwagon, and Apple. Basically, every enemy of Microsoft, they band together to, trying to get Microsoft out. It doesn't. I mean, okay, it didn't work because Microsoft. Um, look at today. Microsoft is still around. In fact, it's far more powerful than before. You go to LinkedIn, that's owned by Microsoft. You go to GitHub, that's owned by Microsoft. Everything. Skype is owned by Microsoft. Then you have Xbox games and stuff. So what I'm saying, a lot of people still hate Microsoft. At least in the hacker community, I'm kind of around. Um, I think, I think they are just wrong. When you want to like or dislike something, you don't want to just follow ideology, the Unix philosophy ideology. You don't want to do that because if you do that, in the end, it does not help your goal. What is your goal? Okay, my goal, or most, hacker types, we want we want companies to be, not lie. We don't want them to lie. We don't want to be devious. We want them to be transparent about whatever data format they use. We want them to be open source if they can. Although I don't particularly require them to be open source, but the data must be open. And wherever I want the data, I must be able to get it, so I can switch operating systems or programming languages, so on. So there are these things we want, and but most people, they just follow ideology. They just, oh, you must be open source. We only support open source. Or they want people to, free software. Or they want, oh, you are a monopoly. We don't want you. Uh, that's wrong because you don't consider all things. Um, and also most people, they want things to be free. That's why all the websites are free. Twitter, Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, all are free. And what do you get in return? Well, you get it for free. Then, but the side effect is that you now have this entire, global, evil empire. Google, Facebook, Twitter. They control. They know everything about you. They monitor your every movement. Your photo and cell phone rose up. The cloud computing rose up. What's cloud? That just put your data into their computer. So why does cloud rose up? Because obviously, if you only want open source, And if they do open source, they have no business. They cannot make a living. They because somebody will just copy it and put a different name. So they cannot do that. So they people find a way to survive. So they then let's do servers then. Then you have cloud. And the force is so powerful. And all the company keep lying. They say whatever to make them more popular. So they say, oh, we provide cloud. You don't have to worry about your photos. It's everywhere you go. Doesn't matter at work, at home. So you got cloud. And what you gonna if you are the open source, there's nothing you can do. You know because you were pushing for something. It's like a balloon, water balloon. You squeeze here, it pops out there. You cannot just force your ideology onto society. It doesn't work. You get worse things. It's not what you want. Okay, so I um rambled a lot. So let's back to okay. So how long I've been talking? Wow, 1 hour already. So let me check the comments. So okay, back to XML. So why did XML become popular? So let's go back to remember. So we have SGML and HTML, and back then every browser is inventing their own tags. So we started to have standard bodies like the W3C standard bodies, and then back then people subscribed the idea that when you code HTML, sometimes you have syntax errors, right? Um, for example, let's create HTML. Uh, okay. So this is a HTML, but suppose you forgot. Um, so that's an HTML. But suppose sometimes people forgot. Sometimes they. Uh, okay, so let's say so this is HTML, but sometimes people forgot. For example, what if they forgot that by mistake? They forgot a tag, or maybe they they typed something wrong here. So what happens? So the common idea popular among programmers, the hacker geeks, is that there's a quote like every programmer you can see in their signature. They fucking have this quote. Let me show you. Everywhere, okay? You don't know how popular that is. It's like in you'll see it almost every day, every other day, every programmer like today on Twitter or some blog. These quotes. Programmer like to put little quotes. It's called signature. It doesn't happen much today anymore, but back then there is the one of the tremendously popular quote is this. Um, I have a article that shows that somewhere. Let me find it. So HTML history. Okay, the story of XML. So actually, I have an article written here already. Um, yeah, that covers part of it. But let's find. Um, okay, give me. I'll try to find it in a few more seconds. If not, let's try to. Okay, I don't remember where it is, but let's just search it. Uh, okay, the quote, the saying goes like this: Be lenient in what you accept. Be strict in what you send out. Okay, so I guess today it's even hard to find. Okay, here. Robustness principle. Okay, here's a famous quote. It's created by a fucking asshole, John Postel. So it's called Postel's law. So here's a quote: Be con- uh, be conservative in what you do. Be liberal in what you accept from others. Okay, so it's often rewarded as be conservative in what you send. Be liberal in what you accept. So what does that mean? So you will see this quote every other day in around 2000s for over 10 years. Okay. So what does it mean? That means when you write HTML, when you have an error like that, if you are a browser implementer, so when you see an error like that, you don't want to stop the word. You don't want to say, "Hey, you got an error." Instead, you just quietly accept it. Like maybe you can guess, okay, he probably means li here. Quietly fix the error and show in the browser. So what's that they mean? The other part, be liberal in what you accept. That's what it means. Be conservative in what you send. That means you try to be, you try to create correct HTML. But anyway, because of this quote, what happens is that 99.9999% of web pages, they are all garbage. I mean, they are all badly morphomed syntax. So every browser, when you pass a HTML, you have to do 100 guesses. People that's why people start to focus on browsers. Like instead of creating a page, that's valid HTML, people start to uh, see which browser is the most popular. Okay, so that's IE. So everyone check their website with IE and tell people to use IE. That's it. That's what happens because each browser behaves differently. And because of this quote, so people in general don't care about correctness of the, I mean, because doesn't matter. The end result is that you show it in IE, it works. So there's no incentive. There's no emphasis on valid correct syntax. So anyway, so this went on for 10 years. Okay, so then people realized that's really bad. We need to fix this. We actually need the correctness concept to be there. So people want to have a HTML that is very strict. That for example, if you have error, if you missed a character or you mistyped something, then the browser will immediately tell you you got an error and refuse to render it. That is XML. So that is the origin of XML, and that is also the popularity of XML. So XML began to become popular around 2002, and it's a craze. I mean, it's like it's this. Um, it's one of the greatest craze. Before we have Java, that's a craze. Write once, run everywhere. Then Perl, the Swiss Army of programming languages. Uh, and then OOP is one of them. XML is one of them. Back then, you started to have XML, which is very strict to this day. So very strict. If you even miss a character in your bracket, it won't render in browser. Um, so XML, so people start to understand and believe the concept that at least for HTML, you want to focus on correctness because that way every browser will behave the same, and also you don't create a situation where every page is invalid syntax, basically just like a just random soup. There's no way to know exactly what it means, but every browser accept it because they want to make them browser look better. Like my web page displays okay in this browser but not in that browser. Therefore, I'm going to use the IE browser. But in fact, my HTML page is full of garbage. So people want to prevent that. So XML concept, the idea of correct syntax becomes hugely popular. And not only that, you start to have XML databases, XML programming languages based on XML, meaning that the whole language, the entire language, programming language's syntax is XML, nested bracket. So so you have this whole thing for basically 10 years, okay, for maybe 8 years, until the HTML5 people came along, which is another um, very colorful political story. HTML5. Vinod Khosla, who as far as ethic, with respect to ethic, is Google better or Apple is better? I think Apple is better, but they are both very bad. They are both extremely bad. I mean, to say one is better than the other, that would be misleading. But I think if you ask me if I have to choose one, uh, I think, nah, I wouldn't even put it that way. Google is extremely uh, corrupted, and Apple is too. Apple, you know what Apple do? They have, Apple is one of the company, like everything is green. Google too. They want healthy planet. They say their machine use the least amount of energy. Their factories or their buildings uses green energy. Wind power, solar power, everything. They make it. They market. They make it beautiful. And even Apple operating system, you can see here. Uh, Let me show you. You see, they even have a energy panel, energy panel, showing that which process is using, is actually eating the more energy. Actually, this is kind of popular now because phone, from smartphone. But anyway, they paint this pretty picture, but actually, Apple Apple's iPhone or iBook or whatever Apple product, they they don't want you to repair. Like they intentionally design their battery, everything, such that it's not replaceable and there's no replacing parts. Even if you go back to Apple to have them fix it officially, they don't create parts to replace parts. They just want to you buy the new one. So what you do with the old one, just throw it away. Extremely wasteful. So why they do that? Because money. That way they can get more money. So and Apple, Google on the surface, they are like pro open source. Mac OS, you have Mac. In the beginning, you have Darwin operating system, which is basically the source code of Mac without the graphics layer and others. So in the beginning, like all the open source, the fucking programmers, the hacker types you see today on Hacker News, the type of programmers that tells you what to do, what should be done. They are like elite and they work in big companies and they have created, they have a team, or they are like influencers. These are fuckheads. So for example, back then when Apple have Darwin OS, they say, oh yeah, we should support Apple, because it's open source. Yeah, let's open source is so great. And also Google, Google uses Linux. Why? Because it's free. It's not because they really actually care about the things. Well, a little bit, for Google at least in the beginning, in the first 10 years. But anyway, so Apple and Google, they are the earlier companies that really supported open source. But look at what they do. Do they really care? Like each Apple and the Google, they have thousands of patents. Patents, little things like trivial things. They have thousands of them. So that's the thing. Do you write all of your Emacs code? What do you mean? Do you mean I use everything I use is written by myself? No, I use a few packages, but yes, in general, I tend to use just my packages. So anyway, I think that's it for today. So that's a long talk. We are over an hour and 15 now. So any other questions? Any questions I missed? So any more questions? Type it. So I think so that's it for today. I've been doing a lot of videos. When you do videos, you learn a lot of things and you also get better. So I can now I'm pretty much I still have a lot of things to learn. Like everything in life. Um, you know, it's like the old saying: practice, practice, practice. If you want to be really good at tennis, you practice tennis. If you want really be really good at programming, you practice that. And so I've been doing videos. I've learned, I've learned the software to use. I learned, how to YouTube stream, and I'm getting better. I'm knowing better about technical details, and I'm also better at talking. I want to say what I feel comfortable in saying, what to talk about, or what subject to talk about, or what kind of style, um, and still there are many things I want to learn and improve. I probably maybe one of the things I'm thinking, like today, like every time I talk about these topics, I get excited because I have so much rant I want to get out. But I'm thinking, maybe I felt that, perhaps I should not do it, in such a, you know, too much, like almost like anger. Okay, so maybe I should not do that. But maybe not. But I mean, maybe it's okay because uh, you know, so because I'm running a XR talk show and I don't it's like I don't have exact idea what exactly where to go. There's so many directions, so I just do and see what happens. um, I hope you guys like the video, like the talk show. If you like it, let other people know and comment in the YouTube comments. So let me know what do you like to see next. I should have I like to invite more people, like especially Emacs people, to come on, and I'm working that out. And so yeah, let me know what you like to see. Any opinions, put in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks. Bye.